Don't those two little lights on Varban's head look like two eyes? It looks like he's making a dirt face. Bah. Now, as you can tell by the thumbnail, we're going to take a look at Varban and talk about how exactly to fix him. Now, I don't have anything against DE. I actually really like them. There's some really cool people. They really make a lot of additions to the game that I have come to enjoy. Be that as it may, I feel like Varban, Vauban, whatever you want to call him. I feel like this Warframe is something that's actually pretty easy to fix, so he's not so terrible. I've had some chances to use him earlier today, and I leveled him up fully after I was finished recording, and I've got some chances to play around with him, and I know what his abilities do, I know what his passive is, I know everything about him, and I know why he's bad, and I have to agree, he is bad. But we're going to talk about how exactly we can fix this. The recent patches did not change anything. He's still a pretty bad Warframe, but there is a way to fix this, and I want to talk about it. But to understand why he's bad, you have to understand his abilities. His passive is probably one of the best parts about him, but we're going to talk about that in a moment. To understand his passive, we need to understand his abilities. His first ability is called Tesla, which is possibly one of the worst abilities in the game. He throws a grenade, and it shocks people a little bit, and has a chance to stun them. Probably. I mean, you can charge it up and it does bonus damage, but it's still horrible. Anyway, his second ability is even worse. He has 4 different grenades that do 4 different worthless things. One of them isn't all that worthless, though. The first one is Bounce, which you throw it at people and it makes them bounce, and it's funny. I mean, you can annoy the absolute heck out of your teammates by throwing this at them, but aside from trolling, yeah, this ability is pretty worthless. I mean, it does magnetic damage, but yeah, it's pretty worthless. The second bomb on this is called Trip Laser. What you do is you throw it at people and it's funny. The third grenade is actually pretty decent. It's called Shred. You throw it at people and it hurts them pretty good. It does splash damage. It has armor reduction. It's actually a pretty interesting ability that gives me an idea on how to really fix him, which I'll be talking about in a minute. But okay, let's demonstrate what this ability looks like. Another thing you'll notice is that this also knocks enemies down, which is actually pretty good too. It's a pretty good control tool, and it gave me a really good idea on how to actually fix Varban's second and his first ability, actually. We'll be getting into that in a moment. DE, hope you take these into consideration when I talk about them. Finally, his other grenade, which is okay. I mean, it's a kind of a confusion of grenade is a good way to explain it. You throw it at people and it exposes them to radiation and it stuns them for a moment. You'll notice this is also a pretty decent control tool, but at the end of the day, it doesn't do much. I mean, as I said, it does expose them to radiation, which is a very solid debuff and is pretty good for control situations, and this is going to be pretty useful in survival, especially if you plan on going in solo. This is actually pretty strong, but in the end of the day, it's nothing to write home about. It's not the best ability. Now, as for his third ability, this is the ability that you will be seeing a lot of players spamming a bunch as this frame. It is a very powerful control tool, and it's pretty useful in most situations, and people will like it when you use this ability because it completely incapacitates enemies around him. And this leads me into his passive ability. Varban does bonus damage to incapacitated enemies, so all of his abilities that stun or incapacitate them as so. His passive grants him 25% bonus damage to said enemies. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's your ability that is incapacitating them or an ally's ability. He simply does 25% bonus damage to incapacitated enemies, period. Now, this makes him a very useful Warframe for intense situations and survival missions due to the control in this ability. Now, be that as it may, this is one of the only abilities that you will be using as Varban. His ultimate, although there is some control, it mostly is just you throw it at people and it's funny. I mean, you might make a Nidus pretty happy with this ability by clumping all those enemies up. He can seriously build some stacks with that. But as outside support and maybe some control, some really strong control actually, that ability, it's kind of just boring. I feel like there's a lot more that they can do with that ability to make it really, really something interesting. And that brings me into how we can make all of this completely change. First of all, why don't you just make this Vortex ability an actual black hole? I mean, just imagine Varban throwing this on the battlefield and it's just sucking everybody in. And I thought about this for a good while. I mean, it's kind of powerful, but enemies that are below 30% health, this ability would execute them. I mean, it's powerful, but it's a lot better than this. Now, okay, let's talk about his Tesla ability. It's boring. I get it. People always just scream at me and tell me, this ability's horrible. Yes, I understand, it's bad. But how are you gonna fix this? Easy. Completely remove the second ability, and we'll talk about what we're going to replace that with in a minute. But we're going to make 2 of those grenades in 1, and that's what his first ability is going to be. It's going to be Shred and Concuss. Both of those grenades are going to be his first ability. He's going to throw his bomb, and it's going to do both of those effects. But not to take away from the magic of his first ability, well, it's called Tesla. Maybe he could throw the grenade. It does both of those effects still, but it does electrocute them as well. Now, as for his dreaded second ability, I don't really want to take away from the magic of this ability because he is the gadget Warframe. He has a lot of gadgets. So I thought about changing it up a little bit, adding some new gadgets in here that were a little more like gadgets, useful gadgets. I jumped around on the internet and I found a lot of interesting ideas. One in particular is my favorite, is having an assortment of auto turrets. Now, having a bunch of them, I feel like it's just too much work on DE. So I kind of like the idea that just has one auto turret with a couple of other robots that do something interesting that I'll be going into in a moment. But the first little gadget he spawns is an auto turret. Now, this could be his exalted weapon. You know how Excalibur has his exalted blade, Valkyr has her claws, and Brooke has his fists, etc., etc. You guys get it. Just make it an exalted weapon, and you can upgrade it with rifle mods. You cycle to it and you spawn it, and it's an auto turret. And I think that would be pretty cool on a Warframe. Another one of these ideas that I found out about was something that spawns ammunition, health, or energy. I prefer the health or energy spawning turret. Something that just, your allies walk up to it and they get a little bit of energy and a little bit of health. I just thought that was an interesting idea. I mean, it's a lot of programming, and I don't want to sound like I'm being a little crazy here with the ideas, but I just feel like there is a lot they could do with this Warframe and make him really, really cool and make him played by everyone. And I feel like this would be a really interesting change. A turret that spawns health and energy, and a turret that's just an auto machine gun turret that he can upgrade as an exalted weapon. Now, you're probably thinking having a robot that spawns health and energy is broken, because he is a control Warframe, and having a Warframe that has an unlimited amount of health and energy at his disposal would be busted, right? Well, no, we got Nidus, right? He has practically infinite energy, and he has practically infinite health, so why not have another one like that? But, I don't know. This is just my idea. Maybe the devs might take this into consideration. because I really think this is a really, really cool twist on this Warframe, and I feel like this would make him one of the top tier Warframes out there. He would be a great support, he would be a great control, and he would kind of keep up with the really cool new Warframes that DE has been releasing the past few years now. But you're probably wondering about what's my opinion on his third ability. What would I do to change that? Personally, I don't think this needs much changing, other than maybe a few buffs to make it a little more interesting, because just suspending enemies in the air is a little boring. It's already a pretty decent control ability, but to make it a little more exciting, how about the grenade just exploding after it's reached its duration, and all the enemies caught within the field that are close to the center are ragdolled and knocked away. And if any enemies hit a wall or any surface when they are knocked away, they will take true damage. I feel like this would be an interesting addition to the ability. Now, those are my thoughts on Varban and what his abilities do and how to use them and all that kind of stuff. Now, I know there are certain modifications and things you can add to him to make his abilities a little more effective, but I don't want this video to drag on forever and be even more long and boring than what it already is. Now, I think my buddy Jizo might have a better Varban build than me. Personally, I don't use him very often because, I don't know, he's just not really my style. I am a support player, though. I do play Trinity, so you would think that I would be really interested in Varban. And at first, I thought he was a really interesting Warframe because I saw this ability right here, his ability to just knock everybody up in the air. I was really interested in that ability because it was a really powerful control ability, but after I got a good idea on what his other skills did, he just seemed kinda useless. But you know what? Not every Warframe in the game is bad, and I'm pretty sure he does have his really, really special uses. As I said before, he would be pretty powerful in survival in certain situations, but for the most part, I can't really see him being too effective anywhere else. Well, that's my opinion anyway. I'm pretty sure most of you have your own opinions. If you hate my opinion, well, hey, that's fine. I love you guys no matter what anyway. Take it easy for me, my fellow gamers. If you did find an enjoyment out of this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more, because I will be making more Warframe videos in the future. Now that I have a good idea on what the game is all about, I know about all the mods and all that kind of stuff, I might actually do a few more reviews, depending on what you guys think about this. Until then, my fellow gamers, take it easy for me, and please do have a blessed day. Bye.